All right, Facebook, be good to me. Here we go.
We got this. It's a good day.
That's right. Such a good day.
Is it bedtime demolition derby over there?
Totally bedtime. I'm like, what just happened out there? No one's screaming. I like held my breath there for a second. What is happening? I think everyone's okay. No one's crying. My husband's doing quick bath time, and here we are on Facebook. Yeah. So as Julieann pointed out, firstly, I have a microphone today. If you caught our video last week, that was painful. Sorry. Secondly, my kids might indeed be doing demolition derby right outside my door. So it is what it is.
That's great. That's okay. Right. We do what we can.
It's true. It is so true. I am so excited, guys. I'm pulling up our live video on my phone here to follow comments and questions. But I'm so excited to have Julieann back this week. She was with us last Wednesday as well. And I saved that video. It's actually going to be on YouTube then too, but it's in our units section as of now, forever and ever. And you can just listen to her talk because you can't hear me. Tonight, we have her back for a different topic because if you caught last week, you'll recall Julieann is a music therapist by trade and also became a nutritional therapist as well. So we talked some nutrition topics last week, and this week, she actually had the brilliant idea to talk about music therapy and its relationship, however uncanny it might seem, to medical advocacy, which I think is so cool. And I know nothing about this topic, so I hope that it blesses you guys to hear about it today. If you want to hear more about Julieann's story too, I'm not going to have her retell all of it, but she gave a really good summary last week as well. But she is Lyme and healing, and she had some big wins today in her healing process she was just telling me about, which is exciting. Do you want to share? I'm putting you on the spot. Do you want to share?
Oh yeah, I drove over a bridge. It was so...
okay, well, it's Wednesday in our group today. Wednesday.
Oh man,
so you have to share a win. You drove over a bridge. Yes.
Yeah. So with my Lyme, I got a vision disorder. I developed I had gliosis in my brain, which is really common with neurological Lyme infections. And that created a vision disorder. And so I have been for the past 3 months in vision therapy, and I've been in EMDR therapy just to help with any psychological stress around the medical trauma and having this vision disorder, which there was a lot of stress, to be fair. And so I haven't been able to drive over, there's a certain bridge over a river that's really long and people go fast on it. And I haven't been able to drive over this bridge because it's so visually disorienting for me. And today was the first day in like 2 years I drove over that bridge.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I wish I could give you a hug.
I know it's so silly, but like, you know, I was just, you know, when you've been totally beat down to a point where you thought you were going to die, right? And you lost all of your independence, everything. And then to just everything that you gain back, it just feels like the biggest gift in the whole world. It's just incredible. I just take, you know, there's so much that we take for granted that you don't even realize until it goes away. And stuff like crossing a bridge without being too visually disoriented is one of those things.
I love it. We have to celebrate the wins, and we stand in that victory with you because we all have something or multiple things that kind of hold us back from our best selves. And, you know, it's not like it's quick conquering everything along the way. You know, it's not like it's an easy fix to all these symptoms. So thank you for encouraging us. 2 years of not driving over that bridge.
And, you know, one thing I keep in the back of my mind is that we all know we have flares, and a lot of this, my ability to cross the bridge depends on neurologically what's flaring up or not. And so I'm also aware that, you know, maybe next week I won't be able to, but maybe 2 weeks from now I will be able to again. And it's just, that's always so important to keep in touch with the Lyme. Like there's so many ups and downs. And I feel like every time you hit another down or you take another back step, it can be emotionally so overwhelming. And I've kind of gotten to this point where I've just accepted the ups and downs, right? It's just part of the process.
It so is, but at least the ups also give you hope for the next time. Like, if you could overcome it once, right, you could do it again.
I have not lost the ability. Oh,
yeah.
Just the
Cool.
best feeling. Anyways, so I am a music therapist.
Yeah.
I am on medical leave right now, but that is by trade. That's my full-time work is music therapy. I trained in nutritional therapy because I was getting really frustrated with parents coming in with their kiddos and they were eating like Cheetos and Doritos as snacks. And then we were wondering why they have ADHD. And it was out of my scope of practice to comment on it as just a music therapist. So I ended up doing the nutritional therapy training as well so that I could kind of approach my clients from a more holistic point of view and be able to touch upon nutrition and touch upon the neurological factors that we look at in music therapy.
Right.
So I'm going to just do a quick explanation of what music therapy is, because I think it's one of the super people have a very different idea of what it actually is, right? So sometimes people think music therapy as something that you just like put on a CD and listen to and then you're healed, or like, you know, people say they're doing music therapy all the time when they play their guitar and it helps them calm down, or, you know, whatever it is. And those are therapeutic in a sense, right? I'm not taking that away from anyone, but what a music therapist does is we work very specifically on non-musical goals using music as the tool. So I have kids come in, let's say maybe with a speech impediment or something that they're working in speech therapy. Maybe they're not making the progress that they need to make. As a music therapist, what we can do is we can rewire the brain using music, and it's an incredibly efficient tool in the sense of, if you think about when we learn a skill, maybe even something as simple as like walking, right? When we learned how to do it when we were young, it happened very naturally for most of us. Think of those processes, those neurological connections in our brain as these like steel beams, right? Like those are the neurological connections. They're like these steel beams. When we add music to that learning process, these beams now become titanium, diamond encrusted beams, right? They are so solid, and they create more resilient connections so that if there is a traumatic brain injury later on in life or trauma later on in life, those connections are going to be much more resilient to those kind of things. And vice versa, if someone then has a brain injury or develops a neurological condition, you can then rewire lost skills using music therapy. And our brain will actually rewire those skills in different parts of our brain. So for instance, I lost a vision part of my brain right around here in my right frontal lobe. And we are currently rewiring those vision skills to another part of my brain. And we are in vision therapy. We are using some neurological music therapy skills as well. We're kind of combining it. So I'm doing a lot of my skills with a metronome, which helps solidify those skills a little bit more. So basically, yes, we use music to identify and work on non-musical goals. Awesome. That's the quick kind of just understanding.
I love it.
Yeah, it is a fascinating tool. I have seen, you know, children with autism talk for the first time in music therapy sessions. I've seen teenagers who had attempted suicide multiple times. I've seen them finally click why they're trying to kill themselves, and then totally change their lives from that point on, just because they finally understood, or they finally got to the memory that, you know, whatever it was. Yeah, I've seen some really incredible things, and it's a great tool just for people to keep in mind, especially if you're not making progress and whatever it is that you're working on. But because I was a music therapist, and I'm specifically a neurologic music therapist, so I have additional training in the neurological system. That's how I figured out I had a neurological infection, and I asked for the MRI. I could just tell based off of the assessment testing I was doing, some skills were actually getting tricky and difficult for me.
Wow.
I say, especially with the visual processing skills. And so when we ended up doing it, so when we did the MRI, we saw the gliosis in the brain. It was like, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Duh. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
it was
so
really
cool
interesting.
that it turned around and helped you right back.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yep.
That's a really great explanation. I appreciate it. Personally, in my background, I've seen music therapy used in the hospital setting.
Oh yeah.
A lot, like
In
a lot.
pediatrics, right?
Well, interestingly, sometimes in adults. So I worked in adults, but I worked in a neuroscience critical care unit. So all different levels of care. Yeah. So it's really cool that you're saying this because I don't think we utilized it to the maximum capacity that we could have, but I thought it was neat to have pet therapy, music therapy, that kind of stuff available to kind of help out. But yes, you're right. It was more prevalent in the pediatric world for sure. But yeah, that's like, so I don't have a broad background in like what the full potential could be for that. So I think it's really cool that you could explain it that way for us to understand that it might go way beyond what we even are familiar with ourselves. Right?
Yeah, it goes way, it is. I mean, every day I'm fascinated by it. The more trainings I do, I'm just like, what? Yeah. I mean, when you see the way that music, it increases the level of organization in our brain. That's just the best way of putting it, right? It just really, if you imagine doing an arm movement and you're going up and down, if you were to measure that with like electrodes and things, you're going to see a certain curve, and we should have this certain curve of coordination between all of our muscles. But if you're someone who has a neurological infection, like many of us do, you're someone who has Parkinson's, any sort of neurodegenerative disease, your curve is not going to be the proper curve. But if you add a beat to what you're doing, especially a really steady metronome beat, it has this priming effect in the brain, and then the brain can organize the movements better. It's like there's a predictive measure there for it. And when you then make that move with the metronome, you're going to be much closer to that curve.
That's great.
So, yeah. So if you're a Lyme out there with a neurological infection and, maybe walking is difficult for you or certain movements are difficult for you, it's really just grab a metronome. You can download it onto your phone and play around and see if you can find a walking pace or a metronome, beats per minute, maybe around 70, 80, 90 beats per minute that you can walk with. And you might find that you can walk with less pain because you're actually coordinating the movements more efficiently.
That's an awesome tip and trick right there for you all. Cool. Thank you.
All right. So we're going to, sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was going to say, should we talk advocacy?
Well, yeah, I don't know anything about how this would correlate. You have to tell us.
Right?
So go ahead.
How could it? Well, okay. So one thing along my Lyme journey I've become very aware of is that I think someone's success in overcoming Lyme disease or any sort of chronic illness really correlates to their ability to advocate for themselves, to push for proper treatment, to explain how they're feeling and in the good times and the bad, right? It's so hard to dig into those really, really low moments and explain it efficiently to our doctors to a point where they believe us and that they don't think that we're crazy. Right. That's one of those major struggles we all have. Yeah. And, I from my story, I really struggled with that because my first doctor didn't believe me and I did not advocate for myself well. I could have been much more persistent, but I was very scared. And very intimidated about rocking the boat in any sense. So there's a talk I always give. I do a lot of work with children and people who have experienced pretty severe abuse and trauma in domestic abuse situations, child abuse situations. And there is this common anxiety or fear when it comes to kind of speaking up for ourselves. And I think you don't need to go through an abusive situation to also have a fear of speaking up for ourselves. One of my strengths is my voice, and it's very easy for me to connect with it and feel confident with it. And I think, where music really correlates here is so many of us are terrified of singing for other people and singing and speaking in public. It is one of the most common fears, right? If I were like, all right, Adele, go ahead, give us some Adele, right? You're probably gonna be like, God, no. Maybe you will. I don't know. Maybe you're a singer.
Nope, I'm not at all.
Right.
No.
Right. And that's really, really scary. Like, that's so scary. And so I end up doing a lot of voice work with people, especially in a group setting with a lot of group singing and a lot of just getting used to hearing your voice with other people. Because if we can get comfortable with our voice and comfortable in the sense of not comfortable with the fact that we're not a good singer, comfortable with the fact, or we don't sound like Celine Dion. I don't even know if young people know who Celine Dion is anymore, but you know, that we don't sound like Beyonce, and that's okay. We don't need to have a perfect voice in order to use it. And I do a lot of work with people, just getting them comfortable using their voice, so that anxiety that we have around using our voice isn't carrying through when it comes time to saying really hard stuff to people, you know, to setting boundaries to people that we need to set boundaries for. It's really easy to sound weak in what we're saying because we are not confident in our own voice when it comes time to making those really tough statements. And so one of the biggest things I always recommend to people is just start singing and using your voice. And you can be on your own, but getting used to the sound of your own voice. Record yourself and then listen to it and like cringe, because we all cringe. Like, that's okay, but get comfortable with that cringe. And then the next step is practice, and you can record yourself too if you need to do this, but like practice the tough statements. Practice asking your doctor for the additional tests, you know, like role play it through it with your partner or whatever it is. Practice that so that when it comes time and you start talking, you're not super self-conscious, and that you know you can sound calm, and you can sound how do I put this? Just assertive without being, without sounding crazy. You know what I mean? Like, without sounding like you have totally lost it, and that you are so deep in the alternative medicine world that your doctor is no longer even going to listen to anything you say. I think that's the other struggle that we have, is that sometimes we go into the doctor's office and we're saying really controversial stuff when we say things like, no, I think I might still have a Bartonella infection, or like, you know, whatever it is. But when we can say it calmly and without sounding too aggressive too, like I've found that if you can just go in to a neurologist with a really calm, assertive, but not aggressive tone, you are just going to make so much more headway. Instead of going in there on the defense, if you can kind of just really go in there in a nice, calm, offensive mode, it's just the test that you're going to have done, the amount of legitimacy you're going to get and respect from your doctors, and therefore they're going to take you more seriously. It's just going to be totally different than if you go in there scared, weak, or do you know what I mean? That like just ready to kind of meet eye to eye. Yeah,
I think you're right. In general in life, people are a lot more willing to maybe hear what you have to say when you're calmly confident about it, even if it's really off the wall stuff or whatever. Yes, I think I have Bartonella because I'm having heavy metal detox headaches. Like, you know what I mean? Like, your doctor's gonna be like, excuse me. What?
Right.
But if you are the expert on your body in terms of you might not know all the answers for fixing it, but you certainly know better than anyone what's going on with it.
Right. And maybe this is the word. It's like, we need to go in there not throwing a tantrum. We need to go in there being the calm, confident adults that we are, you know, and the experts on our body.
Yeah. That's a great point. So if you're singing to improve your confidence and your voice, your confidence in your voice, does it matter what you're singing? Like, does singing along with my kids and their fun Miss Julieann kid songs count?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's just, the importance there is just using your voice, getting confident with it, using your voice, and being able to let the anxiety go. So that way, when it is time to say the scary things, you don't also have the anxiety of the sound of your voice. And especially it might crack, because that worse, it's hard. It's really, really hard. My eye twitches whenever I have to like make a hard statement, and it's just important that you just are so comfortable and aware of your voice and the sound and look and feel of your body in those moments, so that you can get through those really scary things and say them when you have to, or fire a doctor when you have to fire a doctor, which is so hard and can be really scary.
Yeah, it definitely, that might be the pinnacle of being scared to do something. I know. I have to tell myself I would be more scared to sing in front of this person than I would be to just say what I need to say.
Yes. Yeah. And that's definitely the case too. Just to say what you need to say. Right. But, you know, using your voice, singing is just such a great exercise. And, you know, the other side of it is that, you know, for when we train people to use their voice properly, it's also just sounds really simple, but it's the breathing techniques that go along with it. Right. Just, you know, the fact that when you breathe in singing, you are breathing really deep into your diaphragm. You're not lifting up your shoulders. You're purposely relaxing your whole body. So you can get used to what a relaxed body feels like, get used to using your voice with a relaxed body, and then having the anti-anxiety kind of effects of doing the deep breathing and the exercises that go along with that. Just literally breathing properly. Right.
Yeah. Neat.
Yeah, I know. Super simple, right? So like one quick breathing exercise that everyone can do, which everyone will benefit from, would be breathing through your nose for a count of 6, trying to hold it for a count of 6, breathing out for a count of 6, and then holding it for a count of 6. You could start at 3 or 4 or 5, right? You could start at whatever count you're comfortable with. But as you kind of slowly increase that, you are increasing your breath support, but you're also kind of increasing your carbon, is carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide? I can't remember whichever one we breathe out.
Dioxide.
You're increasing your tolerance for it too, which can also kind of be related to anxiety. I know, right? And breathing through your nose is just super, super, super important for a million health reasons. And so there's so many breath exercises that incorporate breathing through your nose, just like in, you know, there's so many yoga exercises that incorporate breathing through your nose. But that's just such a good, important skill. Yeah. Oh, and then the last thing I want to make sure I mention with our voice. I know it sounds silly, but singing positive mantras to ourselves. I know it sounds, it's like, but if there's, I mean, if you can sing to yourself whatever positive mantra you want, like I am a positive, powerful, worthwhile human being, or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be but if you can sing it to yourself, you're just so much more likely to wire in those positive self-thoughts. So that way, you know, if you're triggered by something that may normally trigger some sort of depression cycle or anxiety cycle, if you have repeated those positive mantras more than you've repeated that self-loathing and negative talk, our brain is a brain of habit. It wants to go to whatever pathways are strongest. And so if you've been practicing that self-talk, that positive self-talk, and especially if you've been singing it, those pathways are going to be stronger than the negative pathways.
That is true. That is science. I know this.
That is science. Right. Exactly. So singing is just a way more effective way of making those things, those positive self-talk, positive image ideas stronger.
Cool. Who knew?
I know it's
simple. I do like music, so I guess I could sing a little more privately with my kids.
Yeah, just with your kids. Humming to yourself is so good, so soothing. It's really powerful experience. Can we put in a little plug for my album?
I wanted to say that, and then I got to tell you something funny, but put in a plug for your album, and I'm going to link it again on this video. No, for sure, because hello, music therapy album, like hook me up. I'm already singing Dino at my door.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So in my music therapy practice, I recorded an album called Therapeutic Songs for Kids by Miss Julieann. It is on Spotify, it's on Amazon, it's on iTunes, it's on all the things, but it's just songs from my practice that I wrote to help the children's development, just kind of broadly, in speech skills, movement skills, coping skills. And I made them specifically to be super engaging. which Adele, I'm sure you found with your kids, that your kids
Yep.
kind of immediately get sucked into them and they want to move, they want to engage. So I use a lot of music therapy principles there to make sure that that happened. It won a national award and won a Parents' Choice Award, which is really exciting. And I can't, you know, listen to it if you want to or not, but if you have kids, just saying there's a really good free tool out there on whatever streaming service you want to use it. All the songs are also really meant to be adaptable. So I put certain movements or certain sounds into the songs, but they're very easy to learn. And you'll find once you've learned them, you can start adapting the movements, having your kids make really fun choices, movement choices, sound choices. There's just a lot of options in there. And it's a free tool. Use it.
I 1,000% agree. So I found out about it last week when Julieann was here, and we immediately added it on Spotify just to have it on the go and stuff with us. And we listen to it all the time when we're out and about, especially or during wait times and things, like if we're stuck in the car, which doesn't lend itself well to the kids like moving. But the songs, she's 100% right. They're super engaging. They're not annoying to parents. They're fun. We're all singing along, and my kids are ages 2 to 9, and they all enjoy the songs.
Oh, like even my 9-year-old.
Yeah, my 9-year-old at first was like, are these going to be little kids? You know, she's a little
I don't want to listen to kids music.
And I was like, we had her little brother with us. He's the 2-year-old. And I was like, well, they're for your brother. Why don't you help him enjoy them? Because he is so musical. He loves music more than any child I've ever met in my life. And he just immediately was picking up the songs and enjoying them. Next thing I know, she's singing along, and we get to, I think it was Dinosaur at the Door. And she's like, okay, well, I guess this isn't so bad. And she's like totally enjoying it. So she couldn't even fake being annoyed with it. That's how good this album is. It convinced my moody 9-year-old.
Oh, that makes me want to cry. That's amazing.
You did good work. Yeah, but they're really good coping songs too. You know, my kids are Limey, my 3 oldest, and that 9-year-old. And, you know, I think about when I can pull these songs out of my pocket when, like, you know, they're in a pretty good place with their healing right now. But, you know, there's still lab work. There's still, you know, my one daughter is facing the possibility of IVIG therapy, depending on how her labs go.
Yep.
You know, the scary stuff for little kids. And these songs are going to be so good for when I need to pull them out in my back pocket to just keep the mood like lighter and more goal-centered, hopeful, you know, for them. So
yep,
I recommend this whole album.
Turned quite a few tears upside down with that Shake It Off, with the I Bumped My Head song, right? Oh my gosh.
That song is so good though. Right. That is so good. Because how many kids freak out when they get a bump or a boo-boo, you know, and how nice to just sing a happy song instead.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I wrote that song in the moment accidentally, right? There was a kid who fell in the middle of another song, bumped her head really hard, and went, oh no. And I didn't mean to. And I was like, oh no, I have to, like, you can't, that's the worst thing you can do is yell, oh no, at a kid when they bump their head. And so then that song happened literally just on the spot, and kids got to pick which part of their body they wanted to be silly and bump. And it's amazing how stuff like that can kind of spontaneously happen.
That's perfect. Well, that's as it should be then. And I was just going to say earlier, when you were talking about going through life with music in your pocket all the time, you know, humming and singing to yourself and stuff like that, it makes me laugh and also feel like super guilty. I'm glad you said that, because actually growing up and even now, my dad is exactly like that. He just like goes through life making up songs as he goes, humming tunes, equating lyrics from songs already written to a life circumstance. Like, he's just always in that space, and we all made fun of him. We all made fun of him, and we still do. Oh, Dad's singing a tune again. You know what? He actually got in trouble at work for going around being like that, like too happy.
Singing too much.
Yeah.
Like, you're too jolly. Okay, you're freaking everyone out.
Take it down a notch. You're a little too happy for the rest of the world, right? And it's not like he's like an extra happy guy, but he's just like I think that's, now I'm like, oh my gosh, that's probably how he's been coping all these years and we're making fun of him for it. So
Seriously.
I gotta tell you, this was like a good little chat because it was also a reality check for the people around you in life. It's a clue as to like, not that they're suffering if they're humming to themselves, but like, it's a clue that they might be like coping with stuff subconsciously.
Or just expressing a lot of joy, you know, or confident with themselves, comfortable with their voice. Like, that's a great skill.
Yeah. So I should have been learning something from my dad all these years. And here
next time you see him, you'll have to hum along with him.
I will. I'll probably share this video with him and be like, see, Dad, you were like ahead of your time scientifically.
You nailed it, Dad. Go, Dad.
I know. Therapeutic father. Oh my gosh.
So great.
I think that's awesome, but I don't ever want to cut off your knowledge center. So is there anything else like that you wanted to share about this topic?
No, I think I just wanted to give a quick little slip in there. People think about it. It's a great skill. And stay tuned. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can. It's at Miss Julieann Music. Eventually, once I'm done my medical leave, I will be releasing a second album, and it's all therapeutic. It's all coping skills, behavioral skills kind of songs for kids. A little bit more for the older kids. So like, I bet your 9-year-old will be really feeling it. And the 3-year-old will just dance. I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm going to dance.
Right.
But yeah, so just stay tuned and follow along. And if anyone's open to questions or wants questions or has questions later on, feel free to contact me. I'm not doing much these days other than therapy, but
right. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, I will update the description of this video, make sure I have all the contacts pieces in there. And I'm looking at the thread. I don't have any burning questions right now, but we will watch the comments. So if you guys want to ask Miss Julieann anything in particular, go right ahead. So otherwise, it's been great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This was great.
You bet. All right, everyone. Well, I hope you all have a very wonderful end to your hump day and a good rest of your week. All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks again, Julieann.
Of course. Bye, Del.